In my world there is music and good vibes and laughter and lovers, adventure and friendship. We know who we are.
Welcome to Be the Wellness Podcast, where we help you master your body, mind, and the experience of life through insightful conversation, interviews with experts and thought leaders, all with a side of marital banter and some good old-fashioned humor.
Yes, we are your hosts, Adam and Vanessa Lambert, and we're committed to helping you live life fully expressed physically, mentally, and experientially. Sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and join the conversation.
Welcome, everybody, to Be the Wellness Podcast. Adam and Vanessa Lambert on a windy but nice day in Venice Beach.
How do you know what it's really like today for us in the future?
What?
How do you know what the weather is like for us in the future?
Oh, dude, it's LA. Like, it's you know what I mean? It's
but right
be the
now,
same.
we're on the road after Burning Man to Montana.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So it's I'm sure it's a beautiful day somewhere between Reno and Montana. Somewhere. We are currently on a road trip, living out of our RV, on our way to Montana to greet our Montana attendees to have an awesome adventure in Glacier National Park. And we're taking our time cruising the motorhome. Make sure you check out Instagram and follow along because I'm sure it's awesome.
There'll be some hashtag van life stuff going on for sure.
Totally.
Mostly me driving.
Mostly Adam driving and me doing Instagram stories of Daisy and Penelope and I.
Right. So stay tuned.
They're going to come too. Yeah. But in all seriousness, super excited. We're headed to Montana. We are going to have an amazing retreat with some amazing folks, including our awesome friend, Ashley Van Houten from Paleo Magazine, who's doing a full feature on our paleo retreats. You know, we actually won first place in the Best of Paleo Awards for retreats.
Thanks to y'all.
Thanks to y'all. So she's coming out to do a spread on us, and that's really exciting. So we're really looking forward to having her. She's our homie, and obviously it's going to be super cool to have a little bit of exposure in Paleo Magazine. And if you want to join us on a future retreat, now is the time. Hop on in to BeTheWellness.com/experiences.
Yep, it's plural.
Experiences plural. Check out what we're doing, where we're going.
Yeah.
At this particular time, we may or may not have spaces available for stuff in 2019, but hopefully 2020, there's still some things happening. But yeah, check it out. You know, we're always looking for folks to come and join us in these adventures because after all, we are about training for the adventure of life and for really, you know, living this body-mind experience and making, you know, your life the most optimal, badass possibility that it can be.
Indeed.
Yes.
And so today,
along those realms, along those realms, within that realm,
yes.
We have a really beautiful guest today, and you guys will probably get to experience like the connection that I specifically felt to her. Adam, I think, was obviously witnessing me be super smitten and just really endeared by her because she's a very beautiful, kind, and I think just a very attuned human being. And I hope that you guys can hear that and feel that because really what I got from her is that she's been working on this stuff for a long time and you can feel the energy emanating from her. Even though we're not sitting in the same room, we're, you know, literally across the country. I can feel the energy emanating from her vital force, from her life force through the airwaves. And just really enjoyed getting to know Dr. Linda Lancaster.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I liked her too.
I know you did. No.
I was really enjoying it. Adam didn't say anything.
No, I was really in love, and you were just a little in love.
Right. Yeah, but she's, there's something to be said, I think, the more time that we spend in the health and well-being and wellness world, and I think it's like how mathematicians must feel about the rest of the sciences, so like some of these sciences, somebody comes up with something, they're like, aha, I figured it out. And the mathematicians are like, no kidding. Like, this is how math works, you know, like this is how it works. And I feel like that's the place that she is in, from understanding the connection of us to the world, to our food, to our illness, and all of this stuff. It's like, yeah, all of these things are connected. Here's what you need to do to fix it. We've been saying the same thing for 45 years, and I'm parroting what's been said for 6,500 years, and maybe even more in some of the Chinese traditions.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, okay, this is right. And how you choose to talk about it, can put you in, Chinese medicine, or it can put you in Ayurveda, or it can put you in, if you really extrapolate it and overcomplicate it, it can put you right smack in the middle of the current literature.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, it's cool. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. No, she is amazing. And she has a book called Harmonic Healing, Restore Your Vital Force for Lifelong Wellness. Dr. Linda Lancaster is an energy medicine physician. In 1987, she founded Light Harmonics Institute, an energy medicine clinic and educational center based in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So, like, for real, she's been doing this for a minute.
Yeah.
Her training includes Ayurveda, yoga, medical, radiesthesia, radionics, subtle energy healing, counseling, nutrition, herbal medicine, and detoxification methods. Her life-changing health and cleansing programs have been offered to her patients and their families for nearly 40 years. This lady knows her stuff. She walks the talk. She talks the walk.
She walks the walk.
She walks the walk. She's a talker and a walker. You would think I'd be getting better at this whole thing, but I'm not.
Yeah, it comes and goes.
It comes and goes. But point is, I think she's amazing. She's beautiful, and we really loved this conversation, and we hope you will too. Here's Linda. And
we're live. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Linda.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, it's great to have you.
And Vanessa.
Oh, yay, me too. When I first got the book, the publisher had sent it out, and I saw this title, Harmonic Healing. And I was like, at first I just assumed that it would be healing through music or through sound, because naturally harmonic healing, and as a musician, I'm like, oh, maybe this is about sound healing. But it really isn't. It is harmonic healing in a different way, meaning really bringing the systems of your body into harmony with itself and with the natural environment. And such a beautiful piece of work. So I'm super excited to dive into this. But first, I would love if you could just give our listeners a little bit about your backstory, because it's a really cool story of how you kind of came into this path. And so let's just kick it off with, you just telling us a little bit about how you became Dr. Linda.
Well, at first, I was in my teens and early years of going to university. I was sick. I was really sick. And I had to find my way. And I found yoga. And I started meditating and practicing yoga and teaching yoga. But I found that the way to be well was actually through food, which is, Vanessa, you can resonate with that. And so I wound up, in the yoga ashram, I wound up working in the kitchen, being the chef there. And I realized that my meditation was cooking and serving. So I did that for quite a while, and I my fellow yogis, I noticed, were not getting well on just meditation alone.
Funny thing, right?
Yeah. So I started counseling them and teaching them how to eat. And I go back in the old text, Pablo Aurelio, and a lot of the old timers of cleansing and so forth. At any rate, I started working in a health food store, and I started reading the books, all of the books that were available. And people started coming to me and asking me questions. And then I was raising my family. And when I was raising my family, I got a call from a chiropractor who said, we heard about you. Would you come and teach cooking in the center? And so this was a holistic center in 1981. So we're going back here. Yoga was 1972. So I'm really giving away my age here. And so, which is fine because I've been in practice for 40 years.
Right. You're a good vintage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I call myself a relic, actually.
I like that. Yeah, we'll go with that.
So I started teaching cooking in the center, and then he said, "Wait a minute, you should be counseling people on nutrition. So would you like to do that?" My son was very small, was young at the time. He was only about 2 years old. And I said, well, it'll have to be part-time. As it turned out, I became the director of the Holistic Center in Long Island. At that time, it was a new kind of thing. And I started realizing that I needed an analysis tool. Because, yes, good food is fine, but if there are things in the way that's blocking the energy, because remember, I came from Ayurveda, I came from yoga, I came from understanding energy. So I kind of put it out to the universe. I need a system, please. And 3 times I heard the name Dr. Hazel Parcells. And so I looked for someone who would teach the work because I had small children. I wasn't going to go all the way out to Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I took the class, and I instantly thought, I took a class in New York from one of Dr. Parcells' students, and I realized right away that this was just cuckoo and off.
Right.
I mean, come on, sending treatment to someone in China. So I went home that night. I had a dream, and that gave me the impetus to go back again because the dream was so powerful of what I was learning. And I realized that the information that I needed to know was there, or I needed to remember was there, because I actually watched it on my dream.
Fascinating.
So I went back to the class, and instead of sitting in the back thinking the guy is crazy, I went and sat in the front, and I started asking questions. And he turned around to me and he says, "You better go see Dr. Parcells, because I can't answer your questions." And so I gave a call, and she says, "Come immediately." And she says there was an intermediate class. I never even took the beginners, but we then realized that this was part of my own destiny to bring this information out. On top of that, I had a lot of other teachers that helped to sort of broaden my awareness of energy and energy medicine. I was a homeopath in the early days. I studied homeopathy in 1975, so I already had that body of work. So I realized very quickly I had to get some credentials and start being able to talk with more authority. So I did a lot of traveling around the world. Australia, Europe, England, Canada, India, lots of times in India, 20 times, as a matter of fact. Yeah. And so I learned a lot from my travel, and I was able to put all the pieces together. And so I qualified as a naturopath. I was a homeopath. I know all the great homeopaths. They became my friends. I got very involved in integrating medicine because I believe that energy medicine should sit right next to Western medicine together, because we need Western medicine for many reasons. But for chronicity, and to get people well, and to, as I talk about, to restore our vital force. That's how we get well. So then I decided to write a book about the vital force, which is really a homeopathic term. And so harmonic healing is based on, first, the understanding that the body has an innate ability to heal. All we have to do is give it the right tools, right?
Beautiful. So I know this is kind
So
of
then I became who I am.
so then that was where Dr. Linda was born.
Yeah. And so I have a foundation called GFIM USA, and that's Global Foundation for Integrative Medicine, where we take all of the different healing tools and bring it together, whether it's movement, whether it's medicine. I mean, all medicines. To me, there are many kinds of medicines. Even peace is medicine. So, and then I just put my nose to the ground and just kept going. And I worked one-on-one a lot in the last year. Now I've been promoting the book because I want the information out there, and I know you've read it, and it's got all the tools that we need.
Absolutely. So I want to stop and just hover on this term vital force. And I know it might be difficult to really distinguish what that means, but if you were to describe to a listener, when you throw that term out and you say, we have this vital force, what is that vital force? What does that mean?
Well, we got our vital force the moment we took our first breath. The vital force is there, and you can't raise it, you can surely lower it, but you have an original vital force, and that's connected to the etheric field. That etheric field is everywhere that has space. Okay, the ether, which is the first element of Ayurveda, we have ether, then air, then fire, then water, then earth. We needed we needed ether first. And the reason why we need ether is because that is the energy. So imagine our earth with an electromagnetic field that has an etheric force field. We come onto the planet, we're born, and now we're breathing in the air, which first came from ether. That ether is actually connected to the divine forces. We have a physical body, which is our physical body is just made up of skin and organs and, our parts, our skeletal system, all of that is our physical body. But in order for it to be alive, it has ether. An etheric force field, or ether, is the vital force. It's what we stimulate when we use homeopathy. We stimulate the vital force to heal, for the body to heal. We don't use homeopathy to heal. We actually contact the vital force. Now, this vital force, or the life force of our physical body, is also connected to the astral world, or our emotions, and connected to our mental world, which is our thoughts. And then above the astral and the mental field is what the terminology that I use is, it's the divine essence, our reason or purpose of being here. And we can get further into that. That's a trinity. That's a trinity of why we are here, what our soul's purpose is, and our purpose of being here for community and for humanity. So there's a lot going on above that.
Right.
However, we're going to talk mainly about the etheric force field, which is the primordial sound. Ether is the primordial sound, and we are made up of ether and physicality. That ether is us being a living being. That is why when I say eat organic food, we want food that's imbibed with etheric energy, with
Mm-hmm.
and that etheric energy is the life force of the plant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So in order for us to heal, we need to heal through nature. We've been given this method of taking care of ourselves is by eating good food. So it becomes this work is yes scientific, especially if you talk to a physicist, but it's really a belief system too.
Mm-hmm.
It's the connection and the awareness that we are more than what we see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in the world that we live in today, it is the unseen forces that are taking us down. It is the chemicals, the heavy metals, the radiation, um, pollution. It's taking our energy down. Uh, and these are unseen forces. So, from my perspective, it's better to strengthen our own vital force or strengthen our electromagnetic energy. And so um, I think it's important to understand, have the awareness that we have a vital force that can heal. It's important to know that we as humans have subtle energy fields. And these subtle energy fields can either be strengthened by good food and good air and movement. Exercise is really, really important.
Mm.
Food is really important. And stillness and mindfulness and time out from all the hullabaloo that's going on out there these days.
Yeah.
It's one of these things where I know part of talking to you, I had this feel that I would want to go to this sort of deeper esoteric place with you. So I know that we're talking about this life force from, sort of this, as you said, etheric point of view. But I do want to talk about, when we're looking at these unseen forces, when we're looking at all the things that humankind is quote unquote combating or trying to buffer at least, what do you think is there from a spiritual perspective, or from that sort of higher realm perspective of like why we're at this particular time, and what is happening for us from a spiritual point of view?
Well, it's so interesting because although we're being bombarded with all this stuff and it becomes more and more difficult to nourish our own body, at the same time, there's this huge surge
Mm-hmm.
of spirituality, of mindfulness, of stillness, of understanding that we are one on this
Mm-hmm.
planet Earth. The physicist will tell you if you move a grain of sand, and the whole earth will feel that grain of sand.
Mm-hmm.
We are living on a living being, planet Earth. And so we are just part of the whole. In fact, that's why we can do some of the treatments and from a distance, as well as even test people from a distance, because we are one within the etheric field of the earth. So there's no time or space.
Mm.
So is it is it an idea then that so the individual has their own sort of microcosm of their own Ethereum that's around, or not Ethereum, that's a cryptocurrency, but their own amount of ether around them, right? And then as let's say at like a community level, then there's another layer, and at a country level, there's another layer, and then the entire world. Like, is that how you visualize that?
I don't. That's not how I visualize it, but it's an interesting concept. I think we're part. I believe we're hard.
Mm-hmm.
We're part of the whole. We each have our own etheric force field, just as every snowflake has a pattern. We have a pattern,
I love that.
and so we imagine us. Okay, forget about the physical part. But imagine every cell in your body being like a battery with a positive and a negative flow. So we have these little batteries, and there is sort of electricity and like a field of energy coming out of our batteries. So what makes one person have such a strong field and another person have a weak field? We know this, that the environment of each cell can be weakened, or they can be strengthened. Now, they are weakened because we are exposed to, let's say, heavy metals. When we are exposed to heavy metals, we lose the electricity in the cell, so our emanation or our radiance becomes less. So know that we have original subtle energy when we took our first breath. With that comes, okay, you may have a constitution that could be weaker than others and may be highly allergic, so everything affects you. We're looking at the different reasons why we're basically tired or overstimulated. So it's the balance of the electromagnetic energy of our cells that will give us our potentiality of energy. So, so looking at this person or that person has to do with what happened to them in their life. You've also read about shock. When you go through shocks in life, it also separates the ether from the physical. So the etheric body, you see someone walking in and they're kind of gray and their poor etheric body is trailing along trying to catch up. So because they're in shock, they're not clear. And this clarity has to do with being in balance in the mental, emotional, and etheric fields. This is where the disease process happens. And then again, all the effect of all of what we're going through has to do with an effect on our etheric field. Our etheric field is weakened by radiation, by contaminated food. When I say contaminated, it's not the way Mother Nature was supposed to give it to us, or we were supposed to get it. And
Right.
I mean, it looks the same. An apple is an apple. Well, an apple is not an apple. Trust me. If you want that apple as a healing apple, it will clean out your liver and will clean your gallbladder. However, if the apple has got arsenic because they sprayed the field, sprayed the trees, then what happens is the person gets tired. And eventually these poor old farmers get arthritis from the arsenic that they've been spraying. You know, we're seeing this more and more. When I started, it was not like this. I was still dealing with all these things, but now people are becoming aware. I mean, and at the same time we're becoming aware, we're also becoming aware of consciousness and our responsibility to take care of poor Mother Earth.
Yeah, which is really taking care of ourselves, right? Like you said earlier, this, we are one, literally. So it's like taking care of her is taking care of ourselves. They aren't separate entities.
Yeah, be the change you want to see.
Right. Well, that's why our company, Be the Wellness, that was actually Be the Wellness You Wish to See in the World was like our original tagline, because I had that line just came to me one day, and it's exactly that, right? That you have to become that vibration and start to match that. And I think that's what you're referring to when there's this huge shift in consciousness and awakening, is that people are starting to be the wellness, be the change, be that vibration. And we're seeing that, which is amazing. So I want to kind of rewind a little bit, because you mentioned something earlier that I want to hover on for our audience. And that was that you can actually send healing from afar. You can do testing from afar. Can you just kind of give our listeners an overview of what you mean by that?
Okay. Of course I put my foot in it right away, right?
So I come from a Reiki background, and so I totally get it, but I just want our listeners, because I could see listeners out there being like, wait, what? You can send healing from afar? So I'd love to just do an overview. Yeah.
It's prayer. Well, that's prayer. That's Reiki. That's sending healing. That's remote treatment. Because with intention, we could do these things, but we need the intention. So if you have the intention when you're doing your Reiki signs, your Reiki moves, or I don't, what level did you?
Yes, I've gone through the third level. Yeah,
Okay, so you're doing
yeah.
remote treatments.
Oh, yeah.
So if we believe we are one in the etheric field of the earth, then with intention, we are able to send treatment. Yes, you may have to practice it. And, but you can start with prayer. Prayer will do it. Mantra does it. You can have the intention of sending prayer or mantra to someone for healing. You can do that. Now, how does it work? I think first, I better go back to how we can measure and how we can find the answers, how we can find out what to treat for. Okay, I know in Reiki it's a general. We believe that you believe that the cosmic energy will find its way, and and be in a normalcy. I actually read energy. I use a blood spot. Uh, and I train people in doing this because a blood spot has minerals. And so a dry blood spot on a coffee filter paper within a circle, a closed circle is a field. So we're able to measure whatever's in that circle, and that blood spot is like a quartz crystal in a radio. Does anybody ask why a radio works? It's because of the quartz crystal. And the minerals in our blood create like a quartz crystal within a closed field, so we can measure these energy fields. Now, I use a simple stainless steel pendulum to do that. And it's not woo woo. I'm not asking anybody. I'm actually reading the energy frequency off the blood sample and measuring its potentiality. And so if I find imbalances, then I'm able to take that same blood spot and treat. This is called radionics. Very well known in England, very well known in many countries around the world, not so well known here in the United States, although we have many farmers who are using radionics to treat the crops. So, and they're not using a blood sample, they're using soil samples and overhead photographs. But this is not new stuff. This has been around for eons. And so, of course, I'm coming out of the closet. I've never been in the closet anyway. So I just said, oh, that makes sense to me. And people look at me, that makes sense to you? Are you really kidding me? Yeah, it makes sense to me because if we really believe in the oneness of all things, I have a sort of tag that I use, and it is through healing that we unite in peace. Because once we acknowledge all of these things, what else is there to do but be peaceful? Because these are greater forces than us.
I love that idea, actually. I mean, it's so simple
Yeah.
when you really get down to it. It's like, yeah, what else is there to do?
Yeah, it really makes sense. Like then it becomes very hard to justify doing something mean to your neighbor or somebody across the country, on the whole other side of the world,
And a responsibility to take care of your own health. This is what I see is going on. The big change is people want to know and they want to learn how to take care of themselves. Doesn't mean we don't need a doctor when it's necessary. I'm not saying that. But if we do all the things that will create harmonic healing, there'll be less chance
Right.
of us going into our constitutional weaknesses, which are different directions in the disease process. And I clearly explained that in the book when I talk about the five elements.
So maybe actually we can talk about the disease process again. And obviously, yes, you go into this in the book, but maybe you can just, gradually step us through what the disease process is and what, people can do from sort of a, 360-degree view of their life. Like, what are the elements, so to speak, that you can really be looking at to help not only heal disease state, but also ward it off?
Yeah, and let's first say that disease and getting well is a process.
Mm-hmm.
I like to say that there's no such thing as a cure. And the reason is this. We all have our weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
We all are sensitive to different things. It depends on our makeup and our genetics. Some people will always be allergic. So once we know that, you avoid those foods or whatever that you're allergic to. So there's that. There's the environment that we live in. Are you in a negative environment, or are you hunky-dory and happy and grateful and blessing your food and meditating every day and breathing and exercising and getting good sleep and eating good food? These are all necessary. And it's across the board, whether you're sick or not. It's just across the board. But what is really affecting us is pollution. Pollution will disrupt our electromagnetic energy and our etheric field. So it can cause disease processes, because these disease processes makes our cellular environment very susceptible to parasites. And parasites in themselves, when we think of parasites, we think of, oh, worms. Oh, that's like third world countries. Well, I hate to tell you guys, but we get worms. We get fungus. Fungus is also a parasite. It's living off of you. And a parasite is anything living off you, including people, but that's another subject.
Right. That's another book.
How many vampires? There are vampires in our world. So there's fungus, then there's bacteria. The biome needs to be looked at. And then there's microscopic parasites. And then there are viruses. We've all been injected with viruses, with the inoculations, with the vaccines. We all have viruses. Almost so many people have had flus. I mean, a flu is a virus. There's sexually transmitted diseases. They're a virus. I mean, once we get a virus, it's just like a virus in a computer. It's always there, and they're opportunists. So these are the causes of dis-ease. Now, you can give it all the names you want, but in reality, let's look at the root causes of diseases. And the root causes of diseases, in my understanding, is that there is an imbalance or a disruption in the electromagnetic field, creates an environment for fungus, viruses to take hold, all of that. And so do we just get rid of the parasite? No. We do, but we also change the environment of the cells, because if we change the environment of the cells, the condition no longer exists, because they don't want to be there. So it is learning how to have harmonics in your etheric field. It's learning how to be in balance, so that we can stay in the process of health rather than in the process of disease. So, and this is all at everybody's fingertips to be able to do this. It truly is. And you may have to go and get some lab tests after you've done. I'm so much about a liver cleansing, because the liver is the seat of the mental will. You start cleaning the liver, and the will for life becomes stronger.
Yes. I feel like the liver, it's, being in the wellness world, there are like certain body parts, certain organs, certain glands, certain things at different times that are getting a lot of like play, social play. And the liver's hot right now.
Yeah, the liver's
Everybody's
big.
talking about the
Yeah.
liver.
Well, it's not hot for me because for me, it's not, yeah, I know it's not hot for me because it's not a fad at all. For me, it's the way we get well. I'm glad that people are onto the liver, but don't ever stop because that liver is what processes your thoughts. That liver is what processes your emotions. It's the biggest factory of all the metabolizing of carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and storage of vitamins and minerals. So the liver is so important if we are going to be healthy, not only physically, but emotionally and mentally.
That's such an important point to make because I think people realize, like, for the layperson, when you think of the liver, you think, oh, if I drink too much, my liver's working too hard. Like, that's kind of the scope of what people probably really think about their liver, but they don't really understand that it's like literally the front lines of everything that's going through your body. Your liver is working as the filtration system for it. And, people are just, I don't think they realize what all that means and how important it is to keep the vitality in the liver. And so I love this. And I love, we had Dr. Alan Christensen on as well. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he does an amazing liver cleanse called the Metabolic Reset. And so I love that there's so many opportunities for people to really dive into restoring the liver, getting it back to that vital frequency, including your book, which has an amazing protocol. So maybe we should pop into that and talk about, first of all, what does it look like for someone to, decide whether or not a cleanse is right or some kind of reset is right for them? Do you have them get some labs? Do you just talk about, just have them look at their system and maybe just think about, emotionally and physically how they're feeling? Like, what's your sort of process to get someone through this?
Well, first of all, I believe that we should be doing liver cleansing at least once a year. Because of what's coming in it, what's in our air, what's in our food, and so forth. So just know automatically. And of course, my liver cleansing is quite an easy cleansing because we're going back to nature and to using foods that actually does clean the liver. At the same time, I'm doing therapeutic baths to start taking down all the pollution so the heavy metals and the chemicals and the radiation starts to move out so that this good electromagnetically charged food can actually nourish us and start to move through the liver. I use a morning drink, and that morning drink is with citrus and olive oil, and it's virgin olive oil. It's used to first thing in the morning you've been fasting all night. And so first thing in the morning, you're giving the liver gallbladder some citrus and some olive oil. And I use ginger root as well and some ground flax. And you blend that and you take it in slowly, and right away that gallbladder says, oh, here comes some oil. And it goes, did you hear that?
I did.
So we I'm making believe I'm in my office explaining. So actually I am in my office. I'm not making believe. So we're first kind of doing a mini, very gentle flushing of the liver and gallbladder first thing in the morning. Then we take out all of the baked goods. Never mind gluten-free and this or that. We're taking out baked goods because those dried grains from the oven is much harder for the liver to process. Much easier to process well-cooked grains. If we really look at it, I really don't believe that there are as many gluten-sensitive people as we think out there. To me, it's bread that's causing our problem with the yeast because everybody has such a high overgrowth of yeast and candida. So Yeah, when I check people, I check them for wheat also. Now, when I say wheat, it's an organic wheat. I mean, we can't be using wheat that's sprayed and so forth. I mean, how many times have we heard that when you go to Italy, you can eat the pizza and you can eat the bread
Right.
and you can eat the pasta?
Yeah.
Why? Because of the soil that wheat was grown in.
Mm-hmm.
So little hint, if you're going to buy pasta, make sure it's from Italy.
There you go. Or go to Italy and have it.
Oh, well, we don't
Even
mind that
better.
either. I'm half Italian, as you know.
Oh yeah, me too.
Oh, goodness,
Yep.
that's so nice. No wonder we laughing and
Yeah.
making fun and
Yeah. There's
having a good
the
time.
synchronicity there for sure.
Yeah. So the liver cleansing so the first 3 weeks you do this liver flush drink. It's the liver cleansing drink. If there's ulcers in the system, I have another green drink that I use instead with apple and celery and parsley. It's in the book. And so there's sort of a green liver drink and there is a citrus liver drink. First thing in the morning after you've waken up. And then we give it all foods that have a strong vibrational field, which is organic vegetables. I love vegetables. I think I mean, I was a vegetarian for so many years, and couldn't understand why nobody was eating vegetables, even though they said they were vegetarians.
Right?
Yeah.
That is a problem.
So whether you're a meat eater, whether you're a pescatarian, whether you're a paleo, whatever you're doing, please eat a lot of vegetables
Amen.
Amen. Yep.
and prepare them properly. I use extra virgin olive oil is one of my most important parts of the program. And extra virgin olive oil, everybody's using it, especially in those restaurants. They're saying, well, I sauteed your spinach with olive oil. Yeah, in a fast kitchen with the heat all the way up, the way they just turn that fire on. Here we have this precious olive oil getting all irregular. Because
Oxidated. Yeah.
because of the way extra virgin olive oil is, it has beautiful round molecules. And now you eat that smooth olive oil raw in its natural state, it will flush your liver. So I recommend steaming your vegetables or making soups. And after you do that, take a little olive oil and put it on after. It's yummy. Take a few sprinkles of good sea salt and put it on. The idea that people shouldn't have any salt is absurdity. So we have lots of vegetables. We use olive oil. We use wonderful fresh herbs. We use enough protein according to what you need each day. If you're a muscle builder, if you're a weightlifter, you're going to need more protein than the person sitting at a desk. But understand that excess protein will cause mucus in the system because mucus is undigested protein. So small amounts of protein or enough that you feel satiated. But if you're going to have a big steak, make sure you have a big amount of vegetables with it.
Yeah.
Because vegetables have digestive juices. It was made that way. How do we get somebody well? Make a big pot of soup with
that
lots of
bone broth.
vegetables and that bone broth. Yep.
Oh yeah, we've got a whole freezer of bone broth. That's our jam.
Okay.
We're kind of like, what is that movie where they put the Windex, My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
Oh yeah.
And they would spray Windex on anything. That's how we are with bone broth in our house.
Like, yeah, you see a little more bone.
Anything goes wrong, just add bone broth. It'll be fine.
Or grandma's chicken
Exactly.
soup.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we do the first 3 weeks on the liver cleansing. The food is more restricted than the second 3 weeks. It's a total of 6 weeks. The first 3 weeks, I want to really go lean and mean, unless there's a problem with low weight. You would be doing vegetables and protein, and really avoid all the grains. You can have the lentil, but can't have the grain. Once that 3 weeks passes, you can start adding small amounts of grain, and then according to your weight. If you want to continue to lose weight, then don't add the grains. Wait a little bit. Because especially, if you're a real vegetarian, you want to have grains and legumes. I mean, that's a 6,000-year-old vegetarian from the Ayurvedic tradition. And we don't have to necessarily have everything raw. Food has energy even if it's cooked properly. I like the slow go. I like cooking low heat and slow cooking. I think the slow cooking of food is really, really important, because remember that stove is actually doing the job of what your stomach should be doing. And a lot of our stomachs don't have the fire in our digestion. We're trying to bring back the fire in our digestion so that we could digest our foods. But people don't realize that eating a salad is more difficult to digest than actually eating vegetables.
Right, exactly. And, I love the Ayurvedic style of eating. And I'm curious if you just want to touch on, the different doshas, and like, obviously the pitta does better with the cooler vegetables, the more cooling, lighter things. And so when you're talking about heating the vegetables and warming them slowly, is that for everyone for this particular protocol? Or do you think that, if you're trying to stay within the Ayurvedic, sort of doshas, that you would still want to do more of the cold greens and the cooling stuff if you were more in that fire dosha?
Well, first of all, let's see what time of the year it is.
Uh-huh.
Because almost everyone needs cooked food in the winter.
Right.
But I can understand you have your cooling food. But remember this: if you're pitta, that means you have too much fire.
Mm-hmm.
And so where you need to watch is your spices.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to use cumin, which is cooling, and turmeric, which is also cooling, but you want to avoid the cayenne
Mm-hmm.
and the chilies, of course. However, if you have a kapha, which is the water element, so let's go back to the doshas. We have vata, pitta, kapha, and you can see though when we do an Ayurvedic pulse, we take the vata finger. The vata finger is, and we put it on the vata pulse, and that vata finger is your pointer finger. That's the vata finger. That's the air finger. So you could put that right on. It's right at the bottom of your thumb, where the wrist is, where the wrist mark is. You put it there, and the vata may be all over the place. That you're going to see in a Parkinson case. The air is just out, so you've got to avoid fruits from the tops of the trees. It's airy, so we have to do grounding food. You got to bring down the air and ground. Where on the other side, then we have pitta, which is our middle finger, and the middle finger, very funny, it's the fire finger, if you think.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, we could have some fun on this one.
Yeah, I
But
think so. Yeah.
I could tell you guys really are with it.
Oh yeah. Well, I literally have my middle finger ready to put it on whatever place you tell me. So I'm waiting here.
Oh, good. So to test your own pulse,
Mm-hmm.
you would hold with your vata finger, first one, so your palm is up towards you,
Right.
and you take your left side,
Mm-hmm.
left hand, and you take your vata finger right at the bottom of your thumb
Uh-huh.
on the wrist line. Next one, put right next to it. That's your pitta finger.
Okay. So
That's the fire
my
finger.
vata is like super strong.
Yeah.
And so what are you trying to watch for? Are you trying to watch for it like consistent?
Well, we would say on a vata case like that, make sure you meditate.
Mm-hmm.
And keep that because you're I don't know what your birthday is or your sign is,
Virgo.
but yeah, of course. I'm Virgo rising. How about that?
Yep, Virgo rising. Yep.
Oh gosh. So the pitta finger sometimes pounds, and that tells me that liver is really, really working hard. Or there's no pulse at all, which means that it's just not home.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the next finger, which is your water finger, which is where you wear your wedding band, right? Your water finger.
Mm-hmm.
Water is all to do with emotions. And so that's your kidney, that's your kapha. And so your kapha needs drying foods because too much water. So they do well with certain grains better than other grains. Uh, yeah. So the whole idea of Ayurveda is so interesting. But even if you just ate the harmonic healing diet and adjusted the spices accordingly, you can balance the doshas.
Okay, got it.
So
Got it. Thanks for taking me on that little bird walk because
that little journey.
that was fun because I've always heard people talking about the pulses and I don't really know that. It's an area I just don't know that much about. And so that was the first time anyone kind of took me through that. And I felt like,
Well, they don't like to share it because it's so simple.
right. They want to keep.
And you could use it, Vanessa.
Yeah, no, I want to because really the Vata was the strongest on me. The rest of them felt just like normal pulses, but the Vata I could feel is like it's pumping.
Well, it's got to do with your mind and the air of the mind. So, I mean, you're so excited. I feel your energy. I see where you're coming from, and it's just delightful.
Oh, thank you. I know. I feel like I could be on the phone on this bite. I forgot we're not just on the phone. I feel like I could talk to you for a lifetime.
That sounds like a good plan to me.
Yeah. Okay. So, I really, obviously we're coming up on an hour here. And again, I could talk to you for all the hours and probably just not get sick of it whatsoever. But for folks out there who are looking to, obviously they can pick up the book. It's got the liver cleanse in it. What are some other things that they can just start doing, right now to support their liver and to just, kind of start taking off some of the load energetically and from, the exposure that they have in their environment?
Well, clean up your kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure there's no aluminum in the kitchen. Make sure you don't use aluminum foil. Make sure you start taking your time and cutting your vegetables with reverence. So understand that they are also have a life force.
Mm-hmm.
So
looking at me, he just made a motion of me like chopping ferociously.
She's a vicious chopper.
That's because she's thinking of other things while she's chopping.
You know me. It is.
Vata. We know Vata girls, but know that I'm Vata too, so it's okay.
Okay, good.
I've learned how to harness it, like
Yeah.
Arjuna, like Krishna and Arjuna, Krishna was always saying, you've got to take the reins and pull them back, So, but, believe it or not, the rest of the lifestyle is so important for the liver. Sleep is so important. Drinking water properly. This idea, I don't know where it came from, but this idea, I think I do know where it came from. We won't mention it. These plastic bottles that everybody's carrying on and destroying our planet.
I know.
So, and it's not just a matter of putting the water in the stainless steel bottle, which, okay, you can do, or glass. If I have to bring water with me, if I know I'm going to be out, I will bring a glass, but I will bring one of those the glass ones these days. But water, first of all, there's plastic in the water from the bottle.
In the system.
Yeah, we know that.
Right.
But let's go through the proper way of drinking, and let's look at the stomach, because that's this whole solar plexus area that we're dealing with. When uh, I I talk a lot about chakras, but mainly in this book I talk mainly about the solar plexus and the base chakra, because those two are the chakras that are getting the brunt of everything.
Mm-hmm.
The base chakra, where the adrenals are going, most adrenals go out to lunch because they're getting bombarded, and every time we get exposure we get a shock, and that shock actually breaks down our adrenals until they say bye-bye. And then the thyroid will take over, and then everybody is on thyroid meds. We've seen that, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, we see that.
So
Yep.
let's get back to the solar plexus. So the stomach is a pot cooking on the stove. We're going to add water in first, then we add food, then if we need a little bit more water at the end, that's fine. Maybe we're taking some formulas, some herbals, or some vitamins that are necessary. I'm not a big two shopping bag full vitamin girl.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we could get our bodies working, we don't need all the vitamins. We need to eat good food. We need to acquire good food, bless it, and honor it.
Mm-hmm.
So then we get back to, first thing in the morning, we wake up. Oh, we haven't had any water. I think we should have a nice glass of water, room temperature, maybe even 2 glasses. Then you can drink, you can eat, you can have your breakfast, and you may want to eat. May want to eat your breakfast, and you may want to have water or herbal tea or even coffee. Coffee does not cut this program. I believe in
Okay.
coffee.
You just gained a
I
lot
believe
of
in
people
coffee.
back. They're like, I'm in.
Yeah. No, coffee's important. Now, let me remember that
Okay.
with you,
Okay.
Vanessa, because coffee is a big deal. And so I know all those caveman coffee people will love
Yep,
it.
Yeah.
totally.
And so we're drinking water before meals, with meals. Then we put the lid on. Because what? That stomach is a pot cooking on the stove, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now it has to give it an opportunity to digest. What happens if you keep drinking water all day, all day, all day?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's going to dilute the juices.
Yep.
So wait at least 2 to 3 hours before drinking water again. Okay, you may have a workout after. You don't have a workout an hour after you eat, at least 2 hours. So then you can start drinking water as you're sweating, for sure. And you can drink until your next meal, and you can drink water and then drink water during your meal, and then a little after, even a cup of herbal tea, and then you put the lid on.
Mm.
Mm.
So if you count all the cups of water, you're drinking enough water.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's interesting because, yeah, it actually was an interesting experience I had when I was doing a liver cleanse previously. And one of the recommendations was to quit drinking water with your last evening meal. And one of the things that I noticed that was really interesting is I tend to have food cravings later in the night. It's like one of my ongoing stories I have about food, right? Like later at night, I want a snack. And so that's always my thing of like, am I going to have the snack? Am I not going to have the snack? But what I noticed is when I stopped drinking water with my last meal, those cravings subsided. And so I actually made the correlation that if I kept drinking water, it almost, I don't know if it's like it kept the digestion trying to rev up or what kept happening, but I did notice that I had like less of an appetite later on when I would stop eating or drinking water.
Well, not digesting more. In fact, digesting less,
Mm-hmm.
so that you're looking for the nutrients.
That makes sense. Yeah, I noticed a distinct difference, but I couldn't, I wasn't sure
And
why.
when we're eating fruits and vegetables, that is also water.
Mm-hmm.
There's and we try to eat foods that are hydrating, such as, okay, let's look at the zucchini. or courgettes if we're in England. So if you cut a zucchini in half and you just look, it has this mucilage. It's like slippery. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about? Okay, so that is water that hydrates. The same thing like okra. It's cactus, any kind of cactus, any kind of aloe. That's why they use those things. The desert people use cacti for hydrating. So I use a lot of zucchini, especially in the summer, and cucumber too. So those are hydrating foods because it's not just the watery, but it's the watery with the gel-like qualities, which is a great way to hydrate. And that's why chia seeds are so sought out now. But I've been using, what I put in the book, I've been doing for 40 years. And I've been telling my patients for 40 years exactly what I've written. So it's not, I didn't write a liver cleansing book because it's a fad right now. And
Right, because it's popular.
It's popular because it's necessary. It's necessary.
Got it.
So you can ask me about the coffee or what?
I love it. Yeah, I'm like, let's this is our final debut in our conversation, but tell me about the coffee. Why is it okay?
Because we're Italian and we love espresso?
Yeah.
No. That's not the whole story. Make sure you get coffee from the mountain areas, because there's less mold on those areas. Coffee or the coffee bean is one of the few foods or substances that are bitter. They are bitter. Coffee is bitter. Of course, people put lots of sweetener in it, whether it's sugar or honey or maple syrup, but they're using a lot of sweetener. And that's not a great thing. But I understand if you need a little bit. However, the bitterness of the coffee is actually a liver stimulant. That's why they use it in coffee enemas.
That makes sense.
Interesting.
Yeah. And but so is the cocoa bean. And again, if you're going to have chocolate, make sure that you get it with the least amount of sugar. I recommend above 80%. Yeah. So, because you want that bitterness, and there's very few substances on our planet other than certain herbs that are going to give us that bitterness that we crave.
Absolutely. What about, because I have a recent obsession with matcha tea, what do you think about the green teas and the matcha and where that plays into all of this?
I think they're great. I think all the teas have benefit. Even black and white tea, even jasmine tea, they all have benefits.
Right.
But the green tea has such high levels of antioxidants. And so, yes, I really, I like the tea very much.
Yeah, I'm obsessed. I've noticed a big difference, honestly. The L-theanine, right, that they talk about is nature's, what did someone call it? Nature's Xanax. And I'm like, I totally get that because I've been drinking a couple of cups a day for probably the last few months. I don't know. I'm like the happiest I've ever been.
That had nothing to do with you, Adam, at all, right?
No, not at all. I've been the same for 20 years. I'm sure it's the tea.
There's something to be said about routine.
Yeah.
This is true.
Routine is so good. You get up in the morning, you drink your water, then you do your stretches. So important to stretch every day. I would love to exercise and do my workout every day, but I have a rule that it should be at least every other day.
Yeah.
If you miss one day, then get back on it the next day because you want that heart rate to come up.
Oh yeah.
You want that. And then, you want to do some form of meditation. I put a very simple meditation in my book. that I received from Father Thomas Keating, who was the monk who created contemplative prayer, or was the most influential in our modern times. I mean, Thomas Merton was really, I guess, would be the father of contemplative prayer. So he taught me this really simple meditation, and I said, perfect for people who are a little worried about getting too yogic or too this or too Buddhist. Or the whole idea is to be able to control your mind so that you can become in harmony with your higher force field. So I can say it real quick, unless we're.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah, I was going to ask if it's appropriate to do online. I'd love that.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely. So I like to get down on the ground.
Mm.
You
I
could
could
have
do
a
that
pillow.
actually.
You could have put
My
a pillow.
microphone is stretchable. I'm going down.
Oh boy.
All right, I'm here.
Okay, so you get down on the ground, cross-legged, if you will, if you can. If you're an older person, you can sit on a chair, but get your feet planted on the ground and know that you are on planet Earth. And so you close your eyes and you imagine a river. You're on the bank of the river and just watch the river pass by, nice and peaceful. And of course, a thought enters. Look at the thought, acknowledge it, and then take that thought and put it in a little boat that's on the bank of the river and let it go down the river. And then another one will instantly come there and go back to the peacefulness of the river. And you continue in that way, because what we're trying to do is find the peace, let go of the thought. Find the peace, let go of the thought. And you have the power of doing that. So we can practice that. See the river.
Beautiful. I love it. You are light harmonics all in yourself, Linda. I honestly, there are people that we get to talk to a lot of people, and there's just an energy emanating from you, and just that I feel coming from this conversation, and I hope others can feel it as well. Just the vibrancy and just the high frequency that you're holding is just really beautiful, and I've enjoyed this so much.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What a pleasure to know the two of you, because you guys are really going on a high frequency as well. You have the potential to really make a change in the world, and I think you're doing it.
Mm.
Oh, thanks.
That means a lot.
It does, yeah. Sometimes
Yeah.
you're just trudging along, doing thing after thing, thinking, yeah, man, I'm sure somebody's getting this message,
I'm sure we're just putting a lot of thoughts in those boats.
Yeah. Got a whole fleet.
Yeah, but you know what? At least you're moving them out of your space. Because at the end of the day, we want to have some etheric space so that we can be in peace. Consciousness is between the inhalation and exhalation of your breath.
I love that. I think of that often, actually. I've contemplated that before, and you really can find peace in that space. And it really is a beautiful space to try to focus or be with. So thank you so much. The book is Harmonic Healing. You also have classes that you teach, live seminars and classes at your practice. So tell folks about that as well.
Well, I teach both in New York City as well as Santa Fe, New Mexico. And if they just go to lightharmonics.com, we usually have a schedule posted. And I'm more interested now in teaching. If I never get a new patient again, I have enough to take care of. But teaching others to be able to do this work and to encourage what we're talking about in the book is so, so important. Then we're going to see a real change in our health and our spirituality, because if you're really believing in this, then you're knocking at the door of spirituality.
Right?
It's absolutely true. You're
Yeah.
right. And I'm glad you make that point, because this is, true health is loving your essence, the essence of who you are. And you're right. That is right on the doorstep of spirituality.
I'll give you a quote of what Yogi Bhajan once said. He said, "Unless you see God in another, you don't see God at all."
Bam. That's it. That's it,
Bam.
folks.
Bam.
It's funny because right before you said that, I was going to say that Yogi Bhajan talks about the importance of becoming a teacher, and how important it is to, at some point in life, to teach others what you've learned. And so that's what I was hearing from you is, that you've done, obviously you have your practice and all of that, but it's so important to then pass this information forward for others. And you're doing that.
And to acknowledge your teachers. It's so important to acknowledge our teachers.
That's true.
Nothing is new on the planet. No, I'm sorry. They may call it different names, but nothing is new. Let's just get with the program and bring everybody up to the same platform.
Amen.
So we can have fun together.
Yes, fun. I love the fun.
I do too.
All roads lead to fun. Yeah.
All roads should lead to fun.
Especially Vanessa's road, Adam.
Yeah. Truer words have never been said.
Thank you so much, Dr. Linda. It was an absolute delight. I hope that we get to meet in person one day, and I have a feeling we will. And until then, we wish you the rest of your day to be beautiful, all of your days to be beautiful and wonderful. And thank you so much for this wonderful conversation.
It was such a pleasure, and I honor it, and honor the two of you for the work that you guys are doing.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, folks, We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us. So what did you guys think? Wasn't Dr. Linda just amazing? Such a special lady. And we hope that you could feel that as much as we could, because we just really, I'm not kidding. I got down on my knees and did the prayer.
Yeah.
That was for real, though.
Yeah, it's true. It's such a good one, too. It's so simple. And that's what I like about some of these teachings, is that there's this connotation of like woo-woo with spirituality, with religion, with prayer, with meditation, that like sometimes is like, all right, I don't want to be in your cult. But anybody can sit and think about a river and little boats. Yeah. That doesn't threaten any of your ideals. You know what I mean?
It doesn't threaten any.
Sit there and put those thoughts in boats and send them on. Yes. I love that stuff.
Yeah, totally. If you guys are enjoying this podcast and have yet to leave us a review, this is your friendly reminder to stop for a moment, leave a 5-star review, leave a nice comment. Put it in a boat and send it to iTunes or iHeartRadio or YouTube or wherever you listen, because it really does make a difference to us, and does make a difference to our rankings and all that good stuff. So we are just dropping that in the boat, sending it to you, and and before you go on to your next peaceful moment, stop and leave that review. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. Love you. Bye.